From the largest Ponzi schemes to massive events that would never even happen. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out the biggest frauds of all time. Number 10. Victor Lustig. Every con man, or woman, has a dream of doing something big that'll get them a big score. But how about selling the Eiffel Tower? Oh yeah, this happened. In 1925, a newspaper ran an article in France that noted that the upkeep of the Eiffel Tower was getting way too high. So a man named Victor Lustig hatched a scheme. He impersonated a government official and called 6 scrap metal dealers to a meeting so that they could bid on the deal of a lifetime. He stated that the government couldn't maintain the upkeep of the tower, and so they wanted to sell it. Needless to say, had this been true, the scrap metal dealers would have had a lot to gain, which is why all of the owners went to the meeting, and thus, it was sold. And Lustig fled. The owner took his machinery to the tower in order to start work and was stopped by the police. And it was then that he realized he had been duped. One thing to note, that wasn't the last time the Eiffel Tower was sold. How crazy is that? Number 9. bre-x. The hunt for gold is something that everyone has thought about in one form or another. It's even one of Discovery Channel's most popular shows. But sometimes, people go too far to make other people think there's gold in the ground. And I'm not talking about the first U.S. gold rush. I'm talking about the Brecks Gold scam of 1997 in Indonesia. Like many geologists before him, John Felderhoff found a piece of land that he thought would produce gold. So a mining company named Brecks bought it for him so that work could begin on it. Then the project manager named Michael de Guzman came in and started digging around, but found nothing. Desperate, he shaved gold off of his wedding band to make people think there was gold in the ground, and a lot of it. Sure enough, it worked, and the Brecks stock boomed to an astounding rate. De Guzman kept his scam going until the Filipino government took a look into the ground themselves and revealed that it was a scam. Many investors lost billions of dollars, and Brecks never recovered from the scandal. Number 8. Tim Donaghy. Frauds in sports are a bit tricky because talent can be measured in certain ways, as can fraud. However, one of the biggest causes of sports fraud wasn't a player, it was a referee. And no, I don't mean the refs at the recent NFC Championship game. Sorry, Saints. Rather, I'm talking about NBA referee Tim Donaghy. Donaghy was a well-respected veteran of the game, having personally refereed many teams in big title matchups. But rumors surfaced that Donaghy was using his position to fix and bet on games. Turns out, they were right. Not only did he fix games, he would leak inside information about the players and coaches to help his bookies make the best spread for themselves in terms of bet values. He even went and fixed a key game in the Western Championship Conference Finals when the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Sacramento Kings, a game that everyone who watched it knew was fixed in some fashion, and now they know why. Donaghy was investigated and went to jail for 15 months for his crime, and the NBA has been fighting to earn the faith of their fans and players ever since. Number 7. The Ponzi Scheme. Charles Ponzi started out as a very legitimate businessman who realized a loophole of sorts in buying and selling coupons for more than what they were worth. So he decided to start buying these and selling them for more money. He needed investors though. Sure enough, he convinced people to invest, and for a while it was working. His profits were way up, and then the coupon market dried up. He still owed money to a lot of people. So he devised a new tactic. He would get money from new investors and would use that money to pay off the old ones. He did this for years, and it was working until he got caught. He was sentenced to 5 years in jail in total, and the people who invested in him lost $20 million. This act of fraud would forever be known as a Ponzi scheme, and that term is still used to this day. Number 6. Miracle Car Scam. If a deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and that's exactly what happened to 4,000 people from 1997 to 2002. They were told by a man named Robert Gomez that he had inherited a large fortune and fleet of cars from his adopted father. However, in the father's will, it said that the cars he owned should be given out for a pittance to those who are followers of God. He asked only for between $1,000 and $1,100, sometimes more depending on where he went, to fulfill the obligations of the contract. 4,000 people did this and earned him a lot of money. The problem was that the fortune, the cars, and even his adopted father didn't exist. They were all frauds. Thankfully, he was caught and was sentenced to 21 years in jail. Number 5. Enron. The Enron energy scandal kicked off the new millennium in the worst way possible. This group of people went from a low-tier energy company to one of the most profitable businesses in the world, even going so far as to claim that they were making over $100 billion in profit during the course of a year. Naturally, this was all a sham, and the company was instead using loopholes in the legal system to make it seem like they were bigger and richer than they actually were. Once they were exposed, the company came crashing down, and its head was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The only good thing to come out of this was that those loopholes were sealed up so that this couldn't happen again. Number 4. Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong was an inspiration, a premier athlete, beloved by millions, and he was a fraud. Not in all things. I mean, he did beat cancer, but when it came to his legendary run at the Tour de France, he wasn't a natural athlete. He was using performance-enhancing chemicals to make him better. For years, he denied the accusations and even went as far as to ruin other people's lives if they tried to say otherwise. He kept denying it, but eventually, he admitted that it was true. To Oprah, no less. Armstrong stated that he didn't cheat all the time, but he did do it. In the course of a single day, everything that Armstrong stood for and earned was gone. His titles were stripped, his sponsorships were gone, his credibility was shattered, and it remains one of the biggest sports fraud stories of all time. And the story still isn't over yet. Number 3. Stanley Clifford Wyman. When you think of the frauds you've met so far, you'll no doubt agree that these are bad men and women. But Stanley Clifford Wyman wasn't that. He was a fraud, but in a rather adventurous way. This was a man who simply didn't want a boring life, so he impressed military officials, journalists, and high-ranking government officials just so he could have an adventure. And to quote him, "I'm never bored." And I bet he wasn't, given all that he accomplished. What sealed his legend, though, was when he arranged a meeting between the US president and an Afghani princess in 1921. During that year, there were peace negotiations going on between Afghanistan and the UK. Princess Fatima of Afghanistan was in the US at the time, but the government refused to acknowledge her at all. Enter Wyman, who had an idea to make a meeting happen between the two. There's no way that this would happen, you cry. But it did, and here's how. He contacted Fatima under the guise of being a person from the State Department and promised her a meeting with President Warren Harding. The catch? He needed $10,000 to present to the State Department. Not seeing anything wrong with that, she gave it to him. Aha, he's a crook, you might be shouting. But no, he's not. Rather, he really did use it to get Fatima to the White House via first-class travel and hotel expenses, and then conned his way through the entire US chain of command to arrange the meeting. Truly, he went all the way out to get this done. But all good cons must come to an end. You see, he got to be in the picture that showed Fatima and Harding together, and when it was apparent to other government officials that he was a fake, he got arrested. But you have to admit, that's a heck of a way to go, and I bet he was popular in prison. Number 2. Fire Music Festival. There are events in this life that sometimes can be seen as failures before they even start. And sometimes it's once you get to the event that things go south in a hurry. The Fire Music Festival was one event that could be viewed both ways depending upon where you were standing. This is the story of Billy McFarland, a man who was rather gifted at selling an idea to people, including rapper Ja Rule. They were trying to build an app called Fire, which would allow events to book top-tier musical talent. On the surface, this was a great idea, and Ja Rule, after the fiasco settled, would keep this idea going through another app. But to help promote the launch of the app, they decided to host their own party in the Bahamas, and through both paid advertising and word of mouth, got an infinite amount of hype, which is what everyone would want for their event. But if you know the end of this story, nothing is ever that simple. McFarland and Ja Rule had mere months to prepare an entire island in the Bahamas for the festival. This was fraught with problems, not the least of which was that the event was going to bring in more people than could possibly fit on the island. Not to mention, they promised musical events, great food, drinks, and more. By the time the festival actually happened, it was a disaster in every sense of the word, and not in a very funny way. Not only were the people given nothing that they were promised, the staff, event, and workers weren't paid for the event because of how big the fraud was. And after the festival ended, McFarlane got arrested for literal counts of fraud. Let this be a lesson to you all. If you're gonna do something big, make sure you can deliver or you will pay the price. Number 1. Bernie Madoff. Who else could be on the top of this list? This was a man that defrauded people of $65 billion. The largest amount defrauded by a single individual in history. And the only reason this guy got caught and sentenced was because he confessed to his sons. Can you imagine how much longer it would have gone on if he hadn't have? Madoff owned an investment securities business and made his success over years of hard work until he was one of the biggest names on Wall Street. He brought in family and specialists to further help his company, but things just didn't add up to some, including one guy who proved in 4 minutes that Madoff wasn't for real, and yet he was ignored. Time went on, and the Ponzi scheme that Madoff had maintained for so long was collapsing, and he had to confess that it was all one big lie. Millions were hurt by Madoff, and his greed and fraud are a testament to how far a person is willing to go to make it big. What do you think is the biggest fraud ever committed? Let us know in the comments below and take care.